Hello and welcome back to the International 5 Qualifiers. This is the grand finals of the SEA region. We have the MVP sister squads facing off against each other. Hot 6 versus Phoenix. Hot 6 is currently leading 2-1, but Phoenix won that last game. It's looking really close now. Joining me is Purge, Gods, Blitz. Guys, how are we doing?
Good. Happy to see it go to a game 4. I thought it was just going to be a 3-0 stomp based on the way the first two games went, but Phoenix still has some kick left in them, and we'll see if they can take it back all the way.
Yeah, Gods, do you think that they can come back and maybe make this a reverse all kill?
I think it's definitely possible. At the start of that game 3, I didn't think it was because they started losing all 3 lanes. It looked like it was just going to be the same story going into game 3, but it didn't go that way. And I feel like that's all MVP Phoenix needed was that boost of confidence. Blitz mentioned so much of their first 2 losses felt like it was just like a mental breakdown within the team. So you get a win, and now who knows what happens next.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought it was really important for MVP Phoenix to win in the way that they did. They kind of lost the early game. The laning phase, it wasn't as disastrous as the other two, but it still kind of went poorly. But they were able to bounce back. They had a more consistent and clear strategy this game. They were like, okay, let's wait for the Sven to get a BKB, then we'll engage the fight. Even the Roche fight was played so well, as Parker mentioned during the break. I just thought that this game felt a lot more cohesive, and it felt like they kind of had a better idea of what was going on from start to finish.
Yeah. And with that said, we're into the draft. MVP Hot 6 with the first pick, Leshrac. MVP Phoenix will counter with the Queen of Pain and the Earthshaker. These are 3 heroes that we have seen in just about every SEA matchup, I feel.
I mean, so far, same heroes as the last game.
Yeah.
Same sides as well, so possibly repeat performance. Now, how do they deal with the Sven this time?
I don't even know if you go for the Sven this game.
I think they won't get the Sven unless they can get Darkseer plus Sven,
Yeah.
which is maybe good. I'd be surprised if Hot 6 leave both those 2 in the pool.
I would as well. It's kind of been a comfort hero for March.
I feel like it was the hero that won the game last game.
I felt a lot of BKB carriers could have accomplished that as well, though. Maybe not done as well as against the Brood in the lane. So maybe you're right on that end, but I feel if you don't have a Brood to contend with, you could pretty much get any BKB carrier because the lack of things that went through the BKB, their lack of physical damage as well, it just kind of felt like that made the Sven pick the best thing overall.
I feel like the instant stun was something that was kind of different, right? It's something they weren't really used to playing. That's something the gyrocopter doesn't really bring to the table like a Sven does. I mean, maybe it's easier to kite, but homing missile is a much worse stun than a Stormhammer. So
yeah, not even close. They ban out Darkseer, so there won't be a Darkseer on Phoenix this time, and Phoenix bans out a Drowinger, which would have allowed them to shift into actually a really nice strat. So no bonus damage in their lanes there.
And if you're Hot 6, what do you don't really think you have to ban out the Sven now that you've banned the Wisp, you've banned the Darkseer. I don't think that's important.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to kite the Sven if he doesn't have Surge there, or the Wisp. So maybe some kind of DOT spell, even Shadow Poison works okay, cancel his Blink, limit his mobility, ulti him with Shadow Demon, and all of a sudden Sven is looking like he did in that one fight by the tier 2 on Radiant side.
The other thing where the fight started going well for this Sven when he picked not just having the BKB was that he also had Iron Shell damage because he was fighting with a BKB before he even had the Mask of Madness. The Iron Shell just gave him that little bit of extra damage boost, which I think fit in quite nicely. So I think the Darkseer are the key ban. And they'll ban out the Naga Siren. We've seen this banned out, I think, 3 of the 4 games, maybe even all 4 now, and it just seems like a hero that Hot 6 from past experiences, matches, scrims, know that Phoenix want to run as like a 4th, 5th pick and something to catch them by surprise.
It's one of those I just don't want to deal with it bans.
Yep.
So Witch Doctor was banned on the first phase, by the way, a hero that Phoenix used in the previous game. Would you guys say that was an integral part to their victory? Or, I mean, he had a couple good cask bounces that maybe won them some fights, but as a whole, Death Ward wasn't really like the big swing factor.
I wouldn't say it was integral. I said it was pretty. I mean, he's always a good hero, I think, recently and in this meta, but I don't think he was super integral.
Okay.
I think the Witch Doctor more gets banned because this time around Hot 6 have first pick, so they don't have to ban the Undying. So they have like that opens up an extra ban for them. Whereas last game it was Phoenix with first pick. So when you have first pick yourself, you don't really. I mean, you have a lot more freedom to ban these non must ban heroes.
Right.
And Dazzle, that was the support I was thinking of for either team, actually. Probably the most played support that isn't yet in the pool that wasn't banned. So
Pairs well with Shadow Demon as well.
yes, that's a good point,
Quick heal
actually.
bomb.
That would have been such a good tri lane. Leshrac, Shadow Demon, Dazzle. Ugh.
Hurts.
Wouldn't want to play against
Dude,
that.
the Naga Shadow Demon Dazzle. That used to
That's
hurt.
also like, you don't even have that many Shadow Wave targets. That's so many illusions.
You get illusions from the Naga and the Shadow Demon, then you Riptide to get the minus armor, and then you Shadow Wave.
Yeah, God, I forgot about the minus armor too. Even better.
It hurts.
So Phoenix gets the first pick here. Popular heroes we haven't seen in a while. Clockwork. No Clockwork's at all this set. He's been picked up in pretty much all the qualifiers, but
not as favorited here now.
Yeah, he was picked up by some other teams in the C qualifier, but not so much in by the two MVP squads. I don't think it's that great versus Leshrac, so probably not going to see it here. And Disruptor, there's the other support that's been doing tons of work, except this time it's going to be on MVP Phoenix. It was Heen playing it a lot the previous couple games.
Yeah. Is this the Nuts hero? Does Nuts usually play the Disruptor for them?
If it's a support Earthshaker, Febby has played in most of the Earthshaker games, so
okay.
I imagine it'll be Nuts on Disruptor.
He did before, I think, game 2, or yeah, I think it was game 2 he played it.
I think Phoenix has been much more about the support Shaker than the offlane Shaker.
Yep.
I haven't seen much play much offlane Shaker unless I missed some.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it's fine as a support. I mean, a lot of teams do value it in the offlane, but I think if your draft is decent with somebody shifting to a ganking playstyle or somebody going in the jungle, then the Earthshaker can still catch up really well.
Right.
And we haven't really been seeing late blink daggers coming out of them. So.
Oh, and here's the Heen support Pugna. Blitz, what do you think about this here? I am not sold on the support Pugna, but he's won both games that I've seen Heen play it.
I think it's one of those heroes that is really boom or bust. Like if it pays off, then it feels impossible to play against because you have to get through a thick layer of heroes. And then by the time you actually do, you're most likely been hit so many times by the Nether Ward that the fight feels impossible.
Right.
It does well against heroes like the Earthshaker, where typically the Earthshaker will just kind of sit back and throw the fissures out. But against the Nether Ward, that's not really possible. And same with the Disruptor. If you force a fight against a hero with the death or with the Nether Ward up, it's just going to go so poorly for you. Same with the Queen of Pain, because with the Queen of Pain as well, you kind of want to play the distance game. You want to sit in the back, wait for good opportunities to blink, but the range on the Nether Ward is so large that I feel like that's not really possible. And the other thing that the Pugna gives you with the Leshrac and what works so well together is that they can go high ground pretty much for free because you don't have to hard commit for anything. You can just lay down the Nether Ward behind you. The Shadow Demon waits behind you. You send out the Leshrac with Edict on, and then you just periodically blast the towers. And you've got a free high ground.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if Leshrac gets bested down too fast, Pugna can throw him some quick health in form of the life drain, which is interesting to see.
They tried doing that the other game or in the series where he was picked, but it was almost always the last-ditch effort, and it didn't often do that much. There it is.
Here it is. We've been talking about it this entire time.
I was like,
finally come
wow,
out.
Warlock ban. That's weird. I'm always like, come on, they're going to do it. And their team fight is pretty good. Their initiator is essentially Warlock now, but
Yep.
I don't know if their follow-up is that amazing other than Quap, I guess.
I feel like they need the BKB carry to fight into Pugna, Leshrac, like they had last game, which may be just the last pick for KP, but laning this gets difficult because normally they run the Warlock either safe lane or mid.
Mm-hmm.
They like running aggro with it as well. So maybe they run an aggro try with these three heroes and then have like kind of a safe lane hero like a Weaver or a Clinks.
Let's say Weaver was the pick that worked really well against the Pugna and Dying strat we saw earlier.
Yeah.
You rust the Desolator, bring down the Tombstone with it. Weaver pretty good at finding and picking off the Pugna Nether Ward. And then naturally builds into a BKB if he wants to after that Desolator.
Yeah, I never really thought about how good Geminate attack is against these like X hits needed to kill type things.
That's a good point. Warlock also has the huge threat of upheaval though, and that's why I'm so glad Hot6 picked Weaver. Because you need somebody to deal with the Warlock. If he stands far outside the team fight and channels upheaval and you can't disable him, the fight is going to eventually be lost because you just have this huge kiting potential.
Right.
So if Leshrac is non-moving, then he's just going to have a tough time. So I really like this pickup. Although there is some really good synergy with Fatal Bonds and Queen of Pain. If Phoenix can get a good initiation where Hot6 is grouped and they get the Rock, Fatal Bonds, man, the fight's just going to end immediately with Fissure on top of that. So Hot6 has to be very careful here, and I feel like if their ganks go really well in the early game and their rotations go really well, they should be able to get a huge gold advantage and possibly level advantage, and this should translate to harder team fights for Phoenix. They are the roaming team as well. I mean, I think their roaming is definitely better than Phoenix's, and we've seen that all three games basically due to Jarex.
Right.
But the cracks definitely showed last game.
So who does Phoenix pick up as their hard carry here, you think? Or do they even go hard carry? Do they like solo safe Warlock and run something else?
They need better disables to deal with Weaver if possible. I mean, pre-BKB, they're fine, but once BKB comes on Weaver, then they're going to have trouble.
Do they risk like another Slardo pick even? Like as a BKB kind of carry that doesn't need too much farm?
It's not, and it's good against the Weaver.
It looks good, but it looked iffy the other game. Like I like the hero, but I think there's probably a better solution.
And they probably have that other game still fresh in their mind, like, oh man, we don't want to pick Slardo.
They might just pick up the gyro.
I think that's pretty good.
Bristleback.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
There's a BKB hero that can be on the front lines pretty well.
If they're 5-manning, it's a hero that doesn't need that much farm to be useful. He's survivable. His damage is lower than a typical carry, but it's more open to slight positioning mistakes that will end up happening versus Weaver. I think this is a good choice, but I would like to see him build full semi-carry, maybe Vanguard SNY.
What do you reckon, Blitz?
I feel like if he goes through that build, the Bristleback is going to be relatively hard to kill. The Shadow Demon and the Pugna, if they're both supports, aren't the best heroes against the Bristleback. They just kind of they throw sticks at you. That's what the animations look like. It doesn't look very powerful. And the Leshrac, if the Bristleback is facing the other way, a large portion of the damage gets negated. The Omni Knight, though, that's a pick that I kind of like because you can do the heal bombs early on, right, where you just send the Weaver in, throw the heal on top of it, and it feels like that's kind of a comfortable combo for them. The Omni Knight plus the Weaver, where you can kind of play the Weaver a lot more aggressively than you typically could because of the repel.
Yep.
Is this a situation where the Weaver might even get an item like a Diffusal Blade to deal with the Warlock Golem? Is that the situation?
I don't think so.
No,
I think
you don't think
you
it's
still go
worth
for
going for the Diffusal Blade?
Slash's way!
Yeah.
That sounded really good. I don't know.
I like the idea of weird orbs on Weaver now.
The thing is, though, if you go for that, I feel like you really severely lack for damage. And against, for example, if you fight against the Bristleback and you focus all your attention on the Warlock, how in a million
Bristol has no mana to spam his quills.
If you just rush you want to rush the Desolator again, I think.
Yeah, I think you go for the Deso
because you can just Deso down the rocks. Exactly. If the rock's ever there and you're like, there's no heroes nearby, just start hitting the rock. You'll kill it pretty quickly with Deso.
The Omni can just throw down his ultimate as well, so they have ways actually to deal with the rocks this time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I keep wanting there to be people to build different orbs on Weaver, but it's just Desolator. It's just so much better in almost every situation.
It's a cool idea. You can counter silence with it, but I think they're right. The Deso will kill the golem very fast. It has really high regen, so minus armor is good. And if he ever does find the Warlock channeling, he needs to kill him fast. Diffusal Blade's like a low to medium damage item, whereas Deso's just maximum damage.
And March is probably going to farm up his Aghanims relatively fast. And after that point, Diffusal on just one Golem and still having a Golem around is still pretty...
Yeah,
it feels pretty bad. It's almost like the build-up for Warlock counters the Diffusal Blade purchase anyway because he's going to end up having 4 Golems by the end of the game anyway. So at the end of it, that Diffusal Blade feels real bad just killing 1 Golem out of 3 or out of 4 total. So
definitely.
All right. Well, with that, guys, do we think anybody won the draft specifically? We feel like it's pretty even.
I think MVP Phoenix's lineup is a lot easier to execute. I feel like less has to go right for them to win these team fights because the way that I always look at fights from a casting perspective is I try to play them in my head really quick and say, okay, what is the easiest way for X team to win a fight, right? For MVP Phoenix, all they have to do is make sure they get the rocks off. Like that's the only thing. The Disruptor ult, it helps. Not that necessary. The Queen of Pain ult, is going to land because he's going to throw the Queen of Pain ult down first and then blink in. So I feel like it's just easier for MVP Phoenix to execute this draft. But I feel like Hot6, they had to know the Warlock was coming, so I feel like they're not completely caught unawares by this.
Right. God's opinion of who won the draft?
I like Phoenix's draft better, but every time I see Hot6 with these weird drafts and picks which I feel don't normally work, like the last time with the Omni Knight, the Bounty Hunter I was expecting to be like a decent pick, but it worked way better than I thought it would. Hot6 seems to make these weird things work, like the support Pugna, the offlane Omni Knight, but on paper, looking at it from the outside, it does look like Phoenix have the better draft.
Yeah, and I think Jarex is on a hero that can't do as much as roaming as he normally can, so I feel like it's looking like a Phoenix draft.
All right, guys. Well, this is Game 4 of the Grand Finals of the SEA Qualifiers. Your casters will be Blitz and Gods. Take it away, guys.
Alrighty, here we go. MVP Phoenix looking to stay alive here in the SEA Grand Finals. They have mixed things up here. The March Warlock does put KP into the offlane. They're going to get a fissure block onto MP. There's 4 Phoenix heroes here. They're looking for a first blood, and they're going to get it here. MP completely blocked in. Denied by Pugna. Oh, Hot6. Salvage that situation. They will still lose both bounty runes, it looks like, but no first blood going the way of Phoenix.
Yeah, and that's actually the right move by them because they realize there's no way we're going to help him in time. The fissure block is going to last for too long. Just go all in for the deny because if we lose both the bounty runes and we give up the first blood, we're kind of just sacrificing part of the laning phase already. And I feel like that's where MVP Hot6 have kind of had the better of them this entire, I want to say tournament, I guess, is the laning phase. Because, I mean, they're 4-1 against them if you extend the series out, right? And it feels like in all 5 of those games, even the one they lost, they had a significant advantage going into the mid-game.
Yep. Oh, 4-2 now with there was a 2-1 series in the winner bracket final.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Still very much favored towards the Hot6 way. They're looking for another fissure. This is a full-on aggro trial, and they've left March solo against the Omni Knight. It's a pretty good matchup for a Warlock, especially being able to just zone out, rush something like Phase Boots here if you want to, and really try and bully the Omni Knight as much as you can.
This is going to be way too hard for the Omni Knight to deal with 1v1. Last time, he had the Witch Doctor with him, Jerax, being able to secure the lead, but this game it's not going to be the same as they're going to get aggro tri-laned. In some ways, this kind of makes things a little bit easier for MVP Hot6 because all they have to do is try to get a kill or two and force some sort of rotations. You're noticing the Omni as well kind of just giving up on it and saying, okay, I'm going to go for this repel one because I have to be more useful later on. Whereas the last time I felt like he went for the degen aura because he felt like he could actually contest the lane.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're against a melee hero as opposed to a range hero is the other big difference there. But the problem is this top lane doesn't really have great kill potential. You disrupt into a support Pugna Blast and a Weaver Shikuchi in. There's no real follow-up stun or slow for the disruption.
Yeah, I'm going to agree actually with you on that point as well. I think that the kill potential for MVP is incredibly low. The Weaver early on doesn't really do much. You do need some measure of levels to be able to kind of contest. And you have to be so careful with the Weaver as well because if you get caught with the Sakuchi down early on, you go down so quickly.
Yep. It feels like MVP Phoenix have a good setup for the top lane as well as bottom lane and mid lane. Queen of Pain versus Leshrac should just be a somewhat even matchup, although for now Leshrac is doing a lot better as far as CS goes, but that's something which should probably change over time and just kind of even out. There is the roaming potential of an Earthshaker as well for the Leshrac to worry about.
Especially with the Earthshaker, they're at so much pressure, and MP should do just fine because he can just spam that Lightning Storm off, but he has to be careful of getting on the low ground because Kyo can just blink behind him and instantly initiate on him, and the potential for death is there for him.
Yeah, that's nice from Kyo. He stands off to the side so he doesn't get hit by the Lightning Storm off of the creeps, although he does end up taking that one as well as a couple right clicks from MP beforehand. But he has a regen rune, so he's going to heal himself back up. Bottom lane, March just bullying Sunby back. He's going for the kill with boots. Won't chase any further, though. Down to 67 HP, and that's going to be a fountain trip for Omni Knight, I imagine. He is looking to leech a bit more XP, though, in the time being. March with phase boots is not someone you want to mess around with as far as staying in this lane.
And MVP Hot6's lineup as well. There's not much an Omni can do to help this top lane, as if he were to rotate
bottom
a
lane, looking for the chase. March trying to phase boots through and get that kill, but won't do so.
Unable to get it, but he might actually catch it on the back end as Sunbee's finally going to show himself, and will March actually commit for this?
He could maybe get it while taking the tower. Top lane, though, defensive disruption keeps Pugna alive. Only a little bit longer. KP. This time around, they do get the first blood. As Omni Knight finally decides, enough is enough. I'm going back to Fountain. He's not hanging around this lane anymore. This top lane, though, is suddenly a success for MVP Phoenix as they do get first blood. And it's on Bristleback of all heroes, the ideal target.
And this is 3 lanes won now for MVP Phoenix, at least in the very beginning, as Forev doesn't have the best CS, and March playing that Warlock. For me, personally, I feel like Warlock's weaknesses lies into the early game, the laning phase, where you don't really have high kill potential. Yes, you can zone somebody out, but against dual lanes, you don't really do too much. And ganking him is super easy. But if he gets that early Midas, if he gets that early farm advantage, I feel like it's just a little bit too difficult to stop in the mid game because you never want to engage.
Oh, Earthshaker. I mean, talked about winning all 3 lanes. The one lane that was maybe a bit more even was mid, but they're looking for a kill now with the Earthshaker. Kyo bottling up, gets one more scream off the Shadow Strike. Bottle Charge is healing him up in between, but Kyo gets the kill, and now all 3 lanes well and truly won.
Yeah, and Febby kept looking for that opportunity, and he was able to get that one as there was no ward there. And once again, the Pugna He actually heads back top, I think.
They want KP, and they'll get him a couple of Shadow Poison stacks enough. He actually leveled that up. Not something I was expecting to be as potent as it was. Another Shadow
Jarex
Poison
is just going
stack.
straight in for this.
Nuts wants to kill one more poison. That's going to be a kill onto Nuts, I believe. Tick, 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 tick. Coming soon, not yet. Meanwhile, March getting low. Does say a lave against 4F here. Nuts just lingering around. He knows he's dead. Will go down to the Shadow Demon, who does not get XP for it, and the Warlock survives. Drop the rock defensively, but gonna be happy just to stay alive against that Weaver aggression.
If they would have been able to kill that Warlock from that TP, forced him to blow his first rock, got nothing out of it, been absolute worth right there for Hot6, and I would have called the laning phase somewhat even again, as that's a pretty large investment by them. As Sunvi hasn't really had the best time though. He's actually just pulling the enemy creep camps over. And in terms of the laning phase, I still think this does favor MVP Phoenix right now.
Well, this is going to turn things a bit more in Hot6's way if they can catch out Queen of Pain. And they will. The nighttime vision making it hard for Queen of Pain to scout out that Shadow Demon rotation. Now Urn charges with the Shadow Poison. Jerax just being aggressive all over the place. This is going to be close with that Nether Blast. I think that's a kill. 2 poison sacks. Going to be close with the Soul Catcher. 127, 128. Not quite enough.
I think
Even
he needed one more there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Febby's looking for it as well, but this is the weakness of Marches. He can't really come in, and he has to be careful here. Can't really overcommit as
Febby
is ready.
has overcommitted. Mart's still there, but without a rock, and they're going to go on Febby to start things off. Warlock does get the kill into Pugna, but does pay for it with his Earthshaker's life, and will go scurrying away. Those phase boots have definitely helped him move around and fight a lot better.
Sunbee's going to continue to rotate to this bottom lane, but I mean, how is an Omni Knight ever going to contend with a Bristleback or a Warlock, especially one that's had such a poor early game start? I don't actually feel like he's going to have any impact in the laning phase, but again, that's not what Omni Knight is supposed to do. I feel like in the game where they had a lot of success with it, they got kind of lucky with how well that Omni Knight was able to CS, but I don't think they're expecting that to happen again this game, and I think they're okay with it.
Well, for now. His actual CS is kind of caught up. He's actually doing better than the Bristleback for now. But top lane, maybe some problems here. As 4Rev looking to Shikuchi away. Glimpse not going to catch out the Weaver. They're going to scout out Heen, who gets initiated on Sonic Wave Scream. QO instantly pops Heen on the Pugna. It should be just fine against this Purification Shikuchi. Will be forced to blink on out defensively, but with 8 minutes approaching, he'll just probably make his way towards that top minute 8 rune.
I'm actually really surprised that the Omni Knight chooses to reveal himself there as well, because it opens up the lane again for March. He has to realize that there's nobody that's going to come to pressure him, and that's just more free farm time for him.
Yep. He's, I think, got his Midas coming out now. Yeah, that courier holding on to the recipe, and that'll be arriving shortly. 8 minutes in, phase boots Midas. This is on track as far as a Warlock's concerned.
That's such a reasonable timing for a Warlock. He gets the phase boots to be able to pressure the rest of the lanes and actively participate in the chase, and it helps his base damage so much, as he has one of the better animations in the game, and then you're getting the hand on Midas without being pressured whatsoever. I think you just continue to build on this lead, as the Omni Knight is so poor right now.
Well, Omni Knight back towards the top lane. His movements around the map so far not really amounted to too much. As it seems MVP Hot6, they want to go group up. They want to push some towers. Shadow Demon not up here yet, but they've got everybody else starting to kind of work away here. But with an Earthshaker off to the side in a good position to get off a fissure, this is a very dangerous place to be pushing at this stage of the game without anything like a mech on your side. I guess the Omni Knight's the mobile medic here.
I think they're just waiting for MVP Hot6 to overcommit for this. Come in with the Warlock, drop the rock on top of them, lay down the fissure so there's no escape.
Well, they're going to glyph up. Febby still hiding. He gets scouted up by the Weaver. Shikuchi on forward. Febby just going to run away. Drops a sentry even to be on the safe side. And with the damage he took, he may be the end of the defense of this tier 1 tower. Is this Swarm going to completely airball? Does buy time for the next group wave to come in and start chipping away at this top lane, though.
Yeah, but in this mid lane,
this is not worth it for Hot6. Surely they can actually give up that tier 1 tower. I think ideal scenario is you just give it up, delay it as much as possible, but do not give up kills. And how are they even getting kills? Unless they get disruption into a Leshrac stun, that's their only really avenue into finding kills.
They get the tier 1 at top. We're going to see if this was actually worth it, as QO is putting so much pressure in this bottom lane. March is doing a lot of damage.
I think even without a counter tower, the amount of damage they did to the mid and the bottom tower is fine for Phoenix. Yeah, they didn't get the money for it yet, but they probably feel like, well, next time they group up as 5, we'll definitely get 1 or 2 of these other towers. So
I completely agree. You have pushing. You have a pushing style lineup. You've got Queen of Pain that's going for a Necrobook 3. You've got the Warlock who screams push, right? So you're not too concerned whether or not you take it now or 2 minutes from now. It doesn't really make a difference. The key, like you said, is that they got it somewhat low, so the next time they go for any sort of all-in push for that top lane, they can just kind of take out 2 towers at once and give themselves enough of a gold lead from there.
yeah, there's no real like early game item timing. It's like, man, we really need this item in the next couple of minutes, like a mech or something. It's an Ag Scepter for Warlock, so whether you get the towers now or 5 minutes from now, that's not going to change the Ag's timing too much. The Bristleback is looking for like Vanguard into SMY or Vanguard BKB type build. Queen of Pain looking for more mid-game oriented items, I imagine. Well, the Necrobook you mentioned, so I guess an early T1 tower may accelerate the Necro 1, Necro 2, but not the biggest deal for them. And, well, here we go. Now they're going to say, well, it may be time to take the T1 now. They're going to TP in the Pugner on the dire side. Even just getting a deny here could be good news for Hot6, and it does get down to deny range. It looks like, unfortunately for Phoenix, they get it down a bit too low.
Yeah, that Pugna doesn't have the most mana, but they do have Defender's Advantage, and it looks like MVP Phoenix is going to be okay with that. Yeah, the tower gets denied, but it's about the map pressure that you put by just getting rid of that mid tower without having to use any major abilities.
Yeah, and they're already pressuring the top lane. And that's a lane that Hot6 do not particularly want to have to go defend and push out top lane because they've already taken the T1 tower. Not the most efficient use of their time. An awkward Sonic Wave comes out from Cure. Maybe trying to find the Pugner with a Scream combo there as well.
Maybe he only anticipated one hero there,
Yeah,
and then thought he could throw it out, and then he saw the second one come in and decided against the blink. That's the only scenario that I think that works out, or it's a misclick.
Yep. Well, he's going to just get back to safety for the most part, and we'll see MVP Hot6 pressure bottom, meanwhile Phoenix pressuring top. And we may be in for a tower trade here. This is not really an easy tower just to TP into, as you'll be going in one by one and just kind of setting up for the kind of chain stun, not to mention the glimpse back from the disruptor to be used to prevent any tier 1 tower defense. So it will be just a tier 1 for tier 1 exchange. And now the question is going to be whether or not Hot6 can take the mid tier 1. This looks to me like a tower Phoenix will try to defend.
Yeah, I think they absolutely should. They don't have the disruptor ulti, but it doesn't really matter because I feel with the rocks, they can't really lose this fight.
They also don't have the Sonic Wave is the one other problem here. March pump faking his ultimate, won't actually go for it, and it's going to be Phoenix actually rotating all 5 of their heroes back towards mid. Not the most efficient movement, but they wanted to get out of that top lane anyways and probably farm up their own jungle, even decide to pressure and go for a team fight. They're actually going to make their way towards mid lane and try and get something done. Necro 1 summoned by QO, and these Necrobooks have received a buff here. They're going to go forward here. They've got the rock available. Ooh, that purification hurts, and KP will be deterred from chasing further.
I think if you're MVP Phoenix, you want to get aggressive like this as well because you want to be able to drop the rock in an offensive position where you're actually in a position to push instead of dropping it near your own tier 1 tower. You drop it there, you probably don't have enough time for the rock to trudge across mid, actually beat down on that tier 2. But if you're able to put some damage down onto that mid tower, get aggressive, look for the counter initiation, I think that play is okay.
We'll see where their next move is going to be. The Ag Scepter for Warlock is coming up ridiculously fast. This has been an entirely uncontested Warlock from the laning phase into the mid game where he's been pressuring towers. Do they have the lineup that can deal with this Ags and later on Refresher Warlock, do you think?
I think the Ags Refresher is going to be way too big of an issue because aside from the Weaver, they don't have the best way to DPS it down. On top of that, you have to deal with the Bristleback and the Queen of Pain, right? It's not just the Warlock Ags Refresher that they have to run into. It's the Bristleback who's now picked up a Vanguard. It's the Necronomicon 3 Queen of Pain who can pretty much do half of everybody's HP with her ultimate at level 3. There's just too many factors that have to go correctly for MVP Hot6 in these team fights. Like, they have to kind of kite perfectly. Ferev has to be able to deal the most damage in the game for them to be able to stand a chance here. And you notice that Sunbee is sticking so close to him, but They have to be careful.
Oh, this time he doesn't get the repel off to stop the glimpse. He was mid-cast. We saw that in the previous Omni Knight game, using it to counter the glimpse, but a bit slow in the cast, and that's a free pickoff going the way of Phoenix, and this should be a tier 2 tower. KP's just going to go running forward and look to go on that Nether Ward here, which does force out a defensive decrep, and also, unfortunately, choose away at most of KP's mana. Queen of Pain bottom has a Sonic Wave, will hold on to it for a little bit, goes in for the kill, but will be delayed by defensive disruption. Jarek's got off a defensive earn with it, and will keep himself alive. Nice earned defensive disruption play, and healed himself up during the disruption and gets out of there alive. Also, I think Queen of Pain respecting the max Shadow Poison build that Jarek's has pulled out.
It does so much damage, and it's really unexpected because the math on it is so weird. You don't play against it enough times, and it's not a popular enough hero that you're like, okay, at 6 stacks of poison, it'll do exactly this much with an urn ticking at me.
You also like are unsure how much damage it's going to do. Well, you're unsure what level it is. So you've taken 3 or 4 stacks. You're like, maybe it's level 1. I don't know. Maybe it's level 2 or 3. Until one of your teammates has actually tested it and died, you don't really know.
All right.
Okay. As I was saying, there we go. I mean, Febby's just like, okay, I'm sitting on like 3/4 HP. I'll be okay.
He had 10 stick charges as well. He just didn't anticipate that. Even Purge is like, okay.
That was...
he was so down with that because I know Shadow Demon's his hero.
One for the highlights, perhaps. Or the fails of the finals. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I think it was well played by Jarvis
No,
as well.
I agree. I don't actually think Febby... I mean, yeah, he didn't have to die there. He could have avoided it. But that was definitely a... I was watching the shock factor. I was not ready for him to die.
Yeah, neither was he. So the Warlock continues to farm out the jungle, and he's getting closer and closer to that Aghanim Scepter. And I feel once he gets it, they're going to have a really, really nice timing where they'll have the Necrobook 3, they'll have this Aghanim Scepter up as well. They've got the Bristlebacks Vanguard. They don't really need to wait for too much as Sunbee's going to be the target here.
Oh, Static Storm Kinetic Field locks him in place as well. Will they need an Echo Slam? Doesn't look like it. Just the Totem will be enough, and that means they've still got all their ultimates outside of the Static Storm if they want to apply some pressure and push, which they seem to be doing. Bristleback at top lane, fighting the Weaver, almost killing the Weaver. 1 or 2 more quills, he gets a goo, but the Shikuchi comes back online. KP playing very aggressive up here, has a lot of quill spray stacks on the 4 of. He's going to go for the TP out after the stun misses. Nicely played by him.
Yeah, and 4F has not had the best game as he's being chased out by a Bristleback with no detection just through the sheer power of I'm going to run at you until you run away from me. And the right clicks are enough to deal with that.
That's
and
an
this
awkward
game,
ward on the ground.
Yeah, he's not going to get a Deso first this game. He's trying to go for the BKB because of how many consecutive fights they've lost, and especially with how the laning phase went. I don't think he can afford to go for one, but this kind of feels like a game-losing BKB to me. It's not something that I feel is going to save their lives.
Oh, they're going to lead with the Fissure, follow up with the Infernal. Sunbee gets the GA off just in time to save Heen, who's on the back foot, but the Sonic Wave blinking from Kuo finishes off the 1 kill. They want Jerks as well off to the side. Doesn't look like they'll find him initially. Fissure maybe out of range, but Kuo still in this fight, looking to get a bit more damage here with the Necrobooks. Doesn't look like they'll find it. Fissure from low ground to high ground. The Echo Slam comes out as well. Used mostly defensively. Sunbee on Omni Knight goes down, and Febby still alive and kicking. Has to deal with this Weaver. Won't be able to do so. A 2-for-1 trade, possibly a slight overextension as Kuo in trouble as well. No mana for a blink, misses the stun. Won't matter. 2-for-2 trade, and KP in some trouble here. He's on the run as well. Could look for the TP out. Doesn't look like that's going to be the plan just yet. He's still just going to run straight towards his teammate in March. He'll throw out a heal, and Forever will give up the chase. Maybe a slight overcommitment coming out from Phoenix.
Oh, blinking into their base wasn't a slight overcommitment? The problem is
just QO things.
they just overestimated how strong they were, and the Leshrac does do a fair amount of damage, and they need the Bristleback into the front lines, being able to tank up most of that damage, because as you saw, MVP, they don't have the best way to chase, as they have 0 reliable disables. Like, you can use the disruption into the Leshrac stun combo, but against a Bristleback, even that isn't very effective.
Alright, well, so where Phoenix moves next, they kind of have to play around these long cooldowns in Sonic Wave as well as the Chaotic Offering, so Could go for something at most like a smoke pickoff, but they probably don't want to go for a head-on team fight for some time, or at least another minute before those ultis come back up.
That is the one bright spot for Hot6. Like, they're not in the worst position because MVP Phoenix are kind of beholden to their cooldowns, right? And they might even... Oh, they just miss him.
They saw him at that medium camp, and then he like blinked from the medium camp to that big camp, right past them. That was just unlucky timing.
This is such an awkward fight that's about to happen as
The
well.
glimpse back on the MP. He ain't going to be the one getting caught up, but the purification does a lot of damage. QO getting low. MP cannot finish off the kill. They're going to get the one onto the Pugna now, and KP in the front line is doing big damage. MP falls back, does not want to fight into the Necro 3, but this Necro 3 could blow up on him. MP gets close to bringing it down, doesn't do so. He gets a double kill instead. Sonic Wave off to the side, does not get Sunbee. The Scream will, but MP's there. Has a Lightning Storm as well as Pulse Nova. Needs vision to use it. QO blink out, not in time. KP is marched forward, but this does not look like a fight he's going to win. He feeds away his life. Leshrac gets a lot out of that fight, as does Jerax, who is on a mega kill streak, by the way. 2,000 gold swing. You mentioned an awkward fight, and especially without the Sonic Wave and Chaotic Infernals at the start of the fight, it was very difficult for MVP Phoenix.
Yeah, I think they overcommitted for the Pugna, and he got healed, but KP is still on top of him. The Queen of Pain, after going for him, took so much damage, wasn't in the best position, and he tried his best, but you're never going to get an ideal fight with him at that low of HP. The Warlock Golems weren't ready as well, and yes, you got the Disruptor ultimate off, but Febby wasn't even in the best position, and Jerax, meanwhile, in the backlines, just continue to throw poisons out.
The repel on MP saved him when he killed that Necro 3 as well. It's like, I'm pretty sure he killed him. Like, he didn't take any damage. What's going on? But looking back at the fight, he was repelled up, and repel Leshrac, pretty damn scary. A lot scarier than a repel Weaver at this point of the game.
And so the Weaver has his own BKB, so that repel is going to go on to MP every single time, and now he just has to build for a damage item, and they're okay suddenly, as that was a 4-man wipe, if I remember correctly. I don't think the Warlock died, but him dying isn't a big deal.
Oh, they got the Omni Knight only, but yeah, 4 for 1, I guess. Weaver brought down at bottom lane. Earthshaker finds the pick off there. Queen of Pain will get out alive as well. They may look to chase on. This Shadow Demon, Jerax, a lot of farm to his name. Anything to cancel the TP, you betcha. Jerax, Echo Slam, MP's there with a repel on himself. He's going to turn this around, bring down Febby on the Earthshaker. We'll farm up the Necro books as well. That's some easy money going his way. Kyo's blink forward, wants to finish off Jerax. Will do so. Sunbee not there in time. And now they want Queen of Pain. They want the punish, and it looks like they'll get it. Oh man, a blink decker on MP Leshrac, and now they can clean up these rocks even. KP on the front lines. Doing what he can. The Static Storm goes down. MP.
They don't have a way to get in, though, and actually make use of this Disruptor ult as KP, well, now he does, and Sunbee's actually just going to heal him up, I think. And
Sunbee doing what he can. Pulls out the Guardian Angel now. This Quill Spray's not going to do anything during this. MP still fighting strong. Has a lot of Bloodstone charges. And they don't kill off Leshrac.
Forev, though, is coming in, and Nuts is trying to get out, as both sides are going to get out of this, as they realize that that isn't a winnable fight anymore, but that's a 17-charge Bloodstone Leshrac, and he'll respawn instantly with Boots to travel for the next fight, as I believe it's 1 per level. I'm not sure. They might have changed that, Kevin, with how Kevin would be the person I would ask for that. How the Bloodstone interaction works in terms of how long it takes for you to respawn. It's an incredibly low amount of time. Can we agree on that?
Yep. He's respawning quickly is the word I would use.
All right, so Kevin's, he's giving me some gestures that I can't repeat here, as he's really satisfied to see the Ags rush on that Shadow Demon.
Oh yeah, this is a high-impact Shadow Demon this game. I mean, the Max Shadow Poison has proven its worth, and right now, MVP Hot6, they've pulled their way back in this game. We haven't seen that big team fight out of the Ag Scepter Warlock. It's weird because before it, things were going just fine, but as the game has developed, Hot6 have kind of picked up their items, found their more than their items, they found their levels. Like having level 4 Repel and Leshrac in these team fights has been brutal.
More than that, I think it's also that they're kind of fighting around the Warlock timings, and they're making it a little bit useless, because if you noticed, MP runs in at the Warlock. The Warlock isn't sure what to do, because he doesn't want to just throw down both Golems onto the Leshrac, who's in full position. He's got his whole team behind him. But at the same time, you have to make a stand somewhere. So he drops both Warlock Golems, isn't able to do much because none of his teammates are really in position to take advantage of it. And that's the issue with the Warlock. That's the one downside. Otherwise, you'd see him in every game, is that he's very timing-based. And that timing, it's not a huge window, right? Because the cooldown on it is so large that every team always knows when that's up.
Yep.
So it's so difficult to fight around. And you're just seeing that right now is even if Hot6 lose one fight, they just tell themselves, get into another one. Like, they don't have their spells up.
And
there's such high cooldown.
They haven't even been losing that one fight. The last two Infernals, it feels like you can mess with the Warlock timing by trying to force out a bad ulti, which is exactly what happened with the last one. And the one before that, when they dived into the enemy base. QO, nice dodge on the stun. Has another blink soon. Is there any follow-up to this? Blink out, and he will make it into the trees. Stun could go blind. MP doesn't find it.
If he does hit that stun, I think they are able to kill him. They should have enough damage with just one or two more poison stacks, and they've got the entire team filing in. And look at how poor that Omni Knight is. But it feels like he's played a lot better than the Brood game because he's in consistent position and he's hitting so many of his spells in the proper timings that I feel like his laning phase didn't matter so much, and I think that was the plan here.
Here's a big kill they can get. Where's the Omni Knight? He's nearby, but the Static Storm's in the way. Great Infernals this time. He gets the Leshrac kill, but it's an insta respawn. Sunbeam's not a hero you want to lose. You'll pop the Guardian Angel, maybe somewhat preemptively. But you have to do so to save his life. KP on the low, getting life drained by Heen, who's going to now get found by the Queen of Pain. QO wants this kill. Will be a defensive drop from Jerax, but it's going to be a chaotic Infernal waiting for him. And this is suddenly being turned around pretty decently for Hot6. That Leshrac Weaver duo didn't really have an answer for Leshrac a second time. Too many Bloodstone charges going his way. And Weaver just... everything was thrown at the Leshrac, so Weaver just had free reign over that team fight.
That's a 12-second Bloodstone again, or a 12-second charge. Oh, I don't know why I keep saying second. That's a 12-charge Bloodstone onto the Leshrac. He's picked up a Mystic Staff for himself as well. And now the fights just get even more difficult. And that's something they have to always contend with, is that every single fight that they lose, it just makes it so much easier for MP to get back into these fights. And it feels like you're fighting 6v5 every single time because you have to devote so much to killing the Leshrac. They had to use two ults there, the Queen of Pain one on top of the Disruptor one, just to get the Leshrac out of the way. He instantly respawns. Now he's got the Aegis on top of that. How are you going to kill this guy 3 times in a single fight?
And just doing this around the cooldowns again. This has been the Hot6 game plan for the last 15 minutes. They've had this big gold swing go their way because of their ability to fight around it. It's only a 4,000 net worth lead, but suddenly they find themselves in a position where Leshrac has an Aegis, has picked up a Mystic Staff, Boots of Travel, 12 Bloodstone charges. They're looking fantastic. And I think this is the Octarine core coming out for Leshrac, or is he headed somewhere else?
I'd kind of like to see him build the Hex. The Octarine core is okay. The BKB would actually be, in my opinion, the best possible choice, right? What's killing him right now? It's the Earthshaker on top of everything that the Queen of Pain throws down and the Disruptor.
Static Storm, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the Static Storm that's doing the most possible damage to him.
Guess he feels he has Repel, but...
it's not reliable, though.
I agree. It's not reliable, and I'd lean towards BKB. He's going to get found here in the river. Maybe chased down. They're going to go for Netherwood instead. Now looks for the TP out, and Febby there to cancel it. That's a freebie for Phoenix. They'll take whatever they can get right now.
That was like the most optimistic TP I've seen. He's like, well, if this works, I'm going to be happy. If it doesn't,
He could have just kept running. They weren't actually chasing him. They were focusing down the Netherwood. He's like, oh, I got to save my Netherwood.
Save this ward.
Let's decrep it. Let's just like mind game them a bit. It's the mental games coming out, trying to get in their head and just frustrate them perhaps.
100% not worth. If that's, I think that might be a Shiva's, but even a Hex. Oh, okay. He's going for the Octarine core. Okay, that's fine.
It's still, I mean, more HP, more survivability, more mana to throw spells around.
Yeah, I'm going insane. He's got an Aegis. I think this is a fine pickup. Yep. If you didn't have the Aegis, maybe go for something that would have given you a little bit more tank or better initiate. But I think if you have this Aegis right now, you're going to hit a timing where they're not going to try to go on you for once in a fight. You're not going to be targeted, and so you can just kind of sit there and deal as much damage as you want.
We talked about what's killing him. It doesn't really seem to be the physical damage, so it's not like he needs something like a Shivers or extra armor just yet. At some point, maybe the Quad Infernals
the blind stun.
Wow, nicely played. And QO BKBs, but it's too late. Brought down. MP making plays.
And they're drawing a line straight for this bottom lane because they realize the Queen of Pain goes down. She uses her BKB as well, and she needs that to be able to survive. And I think that MVP Hot6 will be okay with this fight as you've got the travels up on the Leshrac as well. He's got the Aegis on top of that.
Need to defend or they're going to lose this bottom lane. Starts with KP and then they bring everyone else back. Up to the high ground we go. That's a repelled Aegis Leshrac. You do not want to mess with him.
And here's the high ground ability of MVP Hot 6.
There's a refresher though. Warlock's timing has come online. They've got the quad Infernals. Down go the first lot. Down go the second lot. They're going on MP, but he's still fine. Sunbee has the Guardian Angel. They're just going to tear apart
down
the
so
rock.
fast. And there goes
What?
9K in net worth that went to absolutely nothing.
With those Infernals or like something else I'm looking at here?
They were paper mache versions?
Perhaps. I'd believe it. And that's one of the things when you get the Ag Scepter, it does make the Infernals have lower base HP, and Leshrac has spread damage. He works great against that.
We were so excited for a second, and then they disappeared.
I thought he'd go more for the back lines, but dropped them just on a Leshrac, and Leshrac is still full HP. He also life steals off of them with the Octarine Core. This is looking really bad for Phoenix. They've got no Warlock ultimate. Queen of Pain goes in with the Sonic Wave, but it's being healed off by the Omni Knight. Only the Pugna gets low, and Pugna's still alive for now. He taking damage to the Shadow Strike, but it's going to be QO. The target, MP, blinks forward, brings down Queen of Pain, and still no buyback on Queen of Pain. Earthshake is brought back into the fray as Pugna down for 40 seconds on the Hot 6 side, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter here as the bottom lane of Rax under siege. Weaver delivers a Daedalus during the middle of this fight. Takes a bit of damage there from a Necro 3 unit, but he's going to heal it back up using the time-lapse, and now bottom lane of Rax will be claimed. MVP Hot 6 with a 2-1 lead. Get one Rax closer to cinching their spot at the International 5 in Seattle.
All of a sudden, MVP Phoenix. I mean, this has to be so demoralizing. You drop the quad rocks and it does nothing.
Oh man, and then Warlock just going to get jumped and taken apart. They're just playing so ballsy right now on the Hot 6 side. They play by their own rules. They say, okay, you can have your free farm Warlock, you can farm your Accept, you can farm your Refresher, and it's not going to be an issue.
I really thought that was going to do a lot more because in the Complexity versus Gnar game, we saw how effective those 4 golems could be, but in this game, it just felt like they went down so quickly. As we see here at this bottom lane, there goes rock number 1, and immediately followed up with rock number 2, and they're gone. They're
just lightning storm or 2 and the Pulse Nova, no issue at all for MVP Hot 6 to deal with. They even cut Hot 6 in half. The fissure blocked the ramp. There was Omni Knight and Leshrac stuck on the high ground. Didn't matter.
And Febi's going to be the target now, and if he goes down, they're not going to have...
That's a double crit.
Oh, QO is actually going to get stunned from the top.
QO blink back. There's a glimpse onto the Weaver, but Weaver's got no problems right now. He's going to get healed up and repelled. That allows him to bring down the Necrobooks. These Necrobooks have just been free money for MVP Hot 6 throughout this game, and I think maybe an item that QO might be regretting at this stage. Easy to say that in hindsight, but the number of Necrobook kills, right, and the low impact from these items have been very noticeable.
I think he presumed that the bottom fight was going to go a lot better than it did with all of the rocks. He's like, okay, we're going to have this sick pushing lineup. We can deal with the Weaver in fights, but they didn't account for this Leshrac.
To the high ground we go. MP blinks forward. No longer has an Aegis, but he doesn't seem to care. He's getting healed up, and no one on the Hot 6 side taking damage. They drop the rocks once more, but MP in the Static Storm will just run south instead. Now he's going to turn and fight. Just starts throwing nukes at the rocks. He's healing himself up. His team in a bit of trouble. Leshrac finally goes down, but 5-second respawn. Boots of travel. He can come back in. Forev won't get off a time-lapse, though. He'll buy back time-lapse. He's back. Full HP. Leshrac's back as well, and this mid lane is in all sorts of trouble.
Oh, he's going to get glimpsed.
Oh, he's back to Fountain. Can Weaver afford Boots of Travel? Doesn't look like it. Forev marches forward. Leshrac cannot get in. Actually, sorry, what am I talking about? He actually used
so
Boots
many
of Travel
crits in a row.
Forev puts 4 MVP Phoenix Heroes on the sidelines, and with that, it looks like mid lane of Rax going down as well. Warlock, nothing really at his disposal. Now he's going to get purged up, disrupted. Couple poison sacks already, maybe a couple more coming soon. Purification is there, and that's a dead Warlock. Buyback from Disruptor. All he can maybe do is try to find this kill on the Shadow Demon, but even that is not going to be easy to do. Will manage to get it, but meanwhile, Weaver just whittling away, turning the Radiant base into smithereens as the mid-Rax is taken. Buybacks come out from Phoenix, but it's looking all over here. Leshrac's finally arrived once again after being glimpsed back to the Fountain, and with Leshrac here, I don't think there's anything Phoenix can do, Blitz.
Yeah, he's finally made his way down here. We kind of forgot about him in this fight, but Mega Creep should mean the game. as they don't have both the golems to deal with this. QO is going to come in with the BKB. Vebi's coming in as well, but they just don't have the damage right now as the Leshrac is dropping a little bit low, but Vebi, he's going to get taken out, and they just don't have the damage to deal with this Leshrac at this point in the game.
The Decrypt blocking the Bristleback damage, and with that, Mega Creep's about to be claimed. GG is called, and Hot6 will be your Korean representative at the International, winning the SEA qualifiers. Meanwhile, MVP Phoenix will be playing and battling their way through the wildcard matches. And what a way to end things here. It looked like maybe Phoenix were going to be forcing out a Game 5, march at all the farm in the world on that Warlock, but in the end, it just didn't even matter.
It just came down to MP, the way that he itemized, ignoring me and going for the smarter build, and it just felt he was unkillable. He did so much damage to all of these Warlock Golems. They had to take him down, but at the same time...
When they did, it's a 5-second respawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he snowballed way too hard. He had some 6 stuns as well. Another just kind of... No, he's just hitting these stuns without the initiations half the time. Yeah, they had the Shadow Demon, but it didn't feel like they needed the Shadow Demon.
Yeah, and Forev pops almost immediately, but he just comes in and the fight just ends off of that. And, I mean, congratulations to both MVP teams who will both make it to the International. MVP Phoenix's hopes aren't over yet, so that's the good news for them.
Yep. We're joined once again at the panel. K-pop and Purge. SEA is a wrap.
Egg Shadow Demon Craigasm.
Yep. Dude,
so
Octarine
good,
Core Leshrac.
Oh, come on. We've seen that like every other
It's so good,
Can I have
though.
my one game
Yeah,
of
it
the
was
qualifier
good. It was
where
Have your moment.
where it was relevant? And this is
It was
why
so
it was
good.
relevant. It
It was so
applies
good.
Break, which stops Bristleback ult. How many of those fights? Normally Bristle's like the tanky guy. You're like, yeah, go on me. I'll reflect all the damage. It's going to be great. But when you apply Break, his Bristleback stops working, and then Lesh hitting him on the back does full damage, and that's why he was dying so fast. And especially in that bot fight where they shredded the golems, it wasn't just about the golems dying fast. It was that Bristle lost so much fight or so much HP in the first initial that he couldn't also be there to help protect the golems and threaten Leshrac in return. So I honestly think the Eggs did a lot that game. Obviously, Jerax was only able to farm it because he had insane space creation, insane amounts of kills and stuff, but it was a very important part of them being able to kill the Bristol with Soul Catcher as well. Soul Catcher boosting up your single target damage. So compared to last game where they had trouble dealing with the BKBs, it was no issue at all this game.
Yeah, it was really nice to see the Shadow Demon get a lot of... Didn't necessarily get farm priority, but all the kills he was able to make, we were able to get him there fast enough. And Sunby was playing an offlaner that wasn't going to farm a whole lot, didn't really take up a lot of space or kills from him. And so he was able to get to that point. So that was very interesting to see.
Jerax played that so crazy, though. Like, he
Yeah.
was support Shadow Demon. He was just sitting in the enemy jungle. He's like, yeah, I'm going to try to 5 poison stack the Queen of Pain. And he almost got it. He threw one through the jungle, didn't quite get it, and QO backed out. But if he would have landed that, it would have been just like the Earthshaker. He almost solo killed the enemy mid when all he had was like Arcane Boots and Urn. It was incredible. And he just goes for those plays. And sometimes it doesn't work. He doesn't get QO. But then Earthshaker shows up and he's like, oh yeah, I'll get this. And 5 stacks, 1,000 magic damage. Easy kill.
Yeah. So once again, congratulations. 2 teams from Korea out of SEA going to be in the International. That's fantastic. How much was that due to Zephyr's influence here? We have 2 Zephyr members here.
Honestly, I think it'd be really arrogant to say that we had any influence. I think these guys, we might have accelerated it by a little bit, but
For like 2 months.
yeah,
tops.
these guys are so motivated. They're individually talented. Once we got there, we all kind of were in agreement that these guys are going to be beasts. We're going to be beasts if they just had a little bit more time to improve. I think we gave them a little bit extra motivation, but the talent was always there. We knew that Forev was one of the most talented players in Korea. We knew that MP was also the same. We actually kind of theory crafted. We're like, well, maybe if you actually put those 2 players together, they could create some kind of all-star lineup, and then you could just kind of pick and choose the 5 players around them, and that's kind of what they did. Like, they got the 2 most talented players in Korea, in my opinion. They put them on the same team together, and they're getting results now.
Yeah,
It's crazy how Jerax fits into that as well. It feels like having that slight different play style coming out from him where it's a bit less it's not disciplined. He's just
It's
crazy.
not structured at all.
He is the wild card on that team. He just goes off, does his thing, and I feel like that's the kind of player which just doesn't exist in some of these scenes, but he brings a lot to the table. I mean, not to take anything away from everyone else, but that to me was a really smart move from MVP to bring in this X Factor player to the
And
team.
Jerax has been fantastic all throughout this qualifier. His Lena play, I would say, this is some of the best support Lena play I've seen across any qualifier. He's just been doing an insane job so far.
Pretty much every game he becomes a core.
Yeah.
From a support perspective, from roaming,
And
which
that's
is godly. That's actually so good. I'm actually really impressed with him.
And that's one thing you don't think about of supports, but that's kind of the idea of what supports are supposed to be, right? The idea that you can be as beneficial to your team as another hero without farm. And sometimes some supports try to play like, oh, I'm going to be careful and not contribute as much, just be safe. But the idea is that you want to be able to contribute as much as possible to winning the game, dealing damage without having those items. That's really what JRX is doing. Like he's playing almost like a core in some ways, just like without the items that normally a core would get. So really impressive play coming out of JRX.
The rest of his team still plays very well also. I mean, Forever even got shut down a bit in the early game, but they transitioned the late very nicely. And I think MP is just really solid in the mid lane, very, very sound. His gank setups are very good. I feel like that's where he's the most crisp. Maybe he falls off a bit late game compared to players like QO, but I think his laning stage is just very consistent, and he always performs on it.
Yeah. So, C qualifiers as a whole, how did we feel how it went out? Did we think we had a pretty good? I feel like it was one of the more up in the air qualifiers as a whole. I wasn't really certain who was going to win. There were some inklings that maybe Rave was kind of on a downturn, and that TNC was kind of the team to watch, and that played out and ended up being the way it was. But did we really expect to see both MVP teams in the finals?
I thought TNC would do a bit better myself.
Okay.
I thought they would win Group A, which was where they were 1 point behind Hot6, just because of how much had been dominating SEA leading in. But I think looking at SEA, I was like, this is going to be a really amazing qualifier because of how even it was. But a lot of the teams like G-Guard, 5EVER, they didn't deliver up to expectations. Like you've got a team with Yamate, Winter, Ling, Net. They didn't live up to these players' histories and what they've done in the past. And I think a similar story with a team like Invasion, where you had Shaitan, Extinct. The teams with the star power didn't do well. It's the teams with the consistent rosters who performed the best. The two MVPs, Rave and TNC, these are probably the 4 teams who've had the most stable rosters of any teams in the SA qualifiers. And no surprise, they do the best. So I think it was a bit more... I think it was a bit less even of a qualifier than I expected, but I'm glad it was that way because the deserving teams are the ones who made it to the playoffs and ultimately to TI itself.
I think those teams as well, it wasn't just that they had stable rosters, it was also that they played extremely as a team. Like if we looked at the NA qualifiers, like Onar made it to semifinals, they got second place. They were very, very talented players, but they weren't always super on the same page in terms of organization. They would pick strong lanes, but maybe their strats didn't have super synergy like a lot of things that Hot6 and Phoenix picked. I mean, they had the one draft where they had 3 healers, buffing the one guy in the front. They picked a lot of like Undying with Pugna for good team fight strats. I really like the C qualifiers for the interesting drafts that came from it, and I felt like the metagame was definitely pushed forward, at least in that scene. We'll see how that matches up against the others, though, as they come for the qualifiers, or the wild cards, that is.
Now, MVP Phoenix, they'll be going up against... Who do we have in the wild card so far? Out of America, it was NAR, and then out of the CDEC out of the Chinese region. So how do you think they'll fare there? Do you have an early favorite?
What do you think, Blitz?
I think that Phoenix have a chance.
Yeah.
We saw their roster go toe-to-toe. You guys probably didn't watch it because it's a joint Dota tournament, but we saw them at MLG Columbus play against EG. They did quite well. They beat them in the group stage. They almost... I'm not exaggerating this. They almost 2-0'd EG in the playoff bracket as well. If you hadn't seen some throws, I felt like that could have been possible. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility. And so I think that Phoenix, they can compete with the best, but they can't start like they did today. They have to get off to a better start. They have to play with a little bit more confidence, and their draft has to be just a little bit tighter.
It was funny because I was talking about with Kevin before the finals on the way to breakfast. I'm like, well, we felt like MVP versus MVP was maybe a somewhat even matchup, but in the context of who's going to do better at TI at the main event, we both thought Phoenix would be the team who would have maybe a better chance against teams like EG, Secret, IG, yada yada. But I mean, I think after seeing Hot6 play the finals, I may backtrack there, but we definitely felt like Phoenix is a team who has a chance against those tier 1 teams. So.
Yeah, I feel like
and in the wild card, they're not versing those teams. They're versing CDEC and Narvi. So
I think has 2 months to prepare too. A team like that with even more time, this confidence, this guys, we're in it. Like Hot6 will do really well there, and I think the same thing goes for Phoenix. Also, I mean, they're still a relatively new roster. Like they haven't been around. They've played with each other for maybe 4 months together with this current permutation of the roster. Yeah. So an extra 2 months might actually get them in a position where they can really do some damage in those groups. All right, guys. Well, that is it for the SEA qualifier. As we said, it was Hot6 taking the win there. They'll be going on to the main event at the International. Phoenix coming in second place. They'll be going to the wild card. But don't go anywhere. Well, actually, you might want to go somewhere. We've got about how long of a break do we have before we have Europe starting up?
14 CST.
14 CST. So about 3.5 hours before we see some Europe action. That is something you're not going to want to miss. It's going to be right here on Sanj. Thank you for staying with us. This was the SEA qualifier.
The March Warlock does put KP into the offlane. They're going to get a fissure block onto MP. There's 4 Phoenix heroes here. They're looking for a first blood, and they're going to get it here. MP completely blocked in, denied by Pugna. Right past them. That was just unlucky timing.
This is such an awkward fight that's about to happen as
The
well.
glimpse back on the MP. He ain't going to be the one getting caught up, but the purification does a lot of damage. Duo getting low. MP cannot finish off the kill. They're going to get the one onto the Pugner now, and KP in the front line is doing big damage. MP forced back, does not want to fight into the Necro 3, but this Necro 3 could blow up on him. MP gets close to bringing it down, doesn't do so. He gets a double kill instead. Sonic Wave off to the side, does not get Sunbee. The Scream will, but MP's there. Has a Lightning Storm as well as Pulse Nova, needs vision to use it. Q won't blink out, not in time. KP has marched forward, but this does not look like a fight he's going to win.
Got the angle on him
Feeds
too.
away his life. Leshrac gets a lot out of that fight, as does Jerax, who is on a mega... Weaver brought down at bottom lane. Earthshaker finds a pick off there. Queen of Pain will get out alive as well. They look to chase on. This Shadow Demon, Jerax, a lot of farm to his name. Anything to cancel the TP, you betcha. Jerax, Echo Slam. MP's there with a repel on himself. He's going to turn this around, bring down Febby on the Earthshaker. We'll farm up the Necro books as well. That's some easy money going his way. Kyo's blink forward, wants to finish off Jerax. Will do so. Sunbee not there in time. And now they want Queen of Pain. They want the punish, and it
he's so
looks like
low.
they'll get it. Oh man, a Blink Decker on MP's Leshrac, and now he can clean up his Roxy with KP on the front lines. Doing what he can. The Static Storm goes down. MP.
They don't have a way to get in, though, and actually make use of this Shudder ult as KP. Well, now he does, and Sunbee's actually just going to heal him up, I think. And
Sunbee doing what he can. Pulls out the Guardian Angel now. This Quill Spray's not going to do anything during this. MP still fighting strong. Has a lot of Bloodstone charges. He works great against that.
we were so excited for a second, and then they disappeared.
I thought he'd go more for the backlines, but dropped them just on a Leshrac, and Leshrac is still full HP. He also life steals off of them with the Octarine Core. This is looking really bad for Phoenix. They've got no Warlock ultimate. Queen of Pain goes in with the Sonic Wave. It's being healed off by the Omni-Knight. Only the Pugner gets low, and Pugner's still...